Grandpa, come closer. I have to tell you a secret. My 8-year-old granddaughter whispered, her eyes filled with a kind of terror that no child should ever have to know. My parents say that tomorrow they're taking you to the Pines. They say you're no use anymore, that your money looks better in their pockets than in your account. Those words hit me harder than a shot of cheap, bottom-shelf whiskey on an empty stomach. Me, Otis Cyprian, the man who built a concrete and steel empire with these two bare hands, was being hunted in my own home. But what my son and my daughter-in-law didn't realize is that even an old lion never loses his teeth. They wanted my inheritance, but the only thing they were going to inherit was a lesson that would burn for the rest of their miserable lives. Before the reckoning begins, make sure to subscribe and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching justice be served. The Georgia sun was beating down hard on the garden of my estate in Buckhead, or rather, on the Vanity Fair that my daughter-in-law, Tiffany, had turned my granddaughter Zora's birthday into. A jazz band was playing at full volume, competing with the loud, fake laughter of people I barely knew. Friends, my son Marcus called them. I called them parasites in designer labels. I adjusted my hat, feeling the sweat trickle down my back under my linen suit. Everything about this party screamed new money, glass tables, floral arrangements that cost more than a foreman's monthly salary, and bottles of high-end bourbon being popped like they were soda. "Mr. Cyprian," someone shouted behind me. It was Atticus Thorne, a greasy little man and a friend of my son. "What a bash, huh? Your son really knows how to go all out." "Yeah, it's a shame. The house and the bank account are both mine," I muttered under my breath, though I offered him a tight, forced smile. "That's right, Thorne. Marcus has a taste for the finer things." I walked away, searching for a bit of peace. From the terrace, I watched Tiffany. She was posing for a selfie by the dessert table, making that ridiculous duck face. She was wearing a dress that probably cost $3,000, bought with the credit card I was paying off. "It's for the family image, Pop Pop," she had told me last week. Image. In my day, an image was built with your word and your honor, not with social media filters. Marcus was standing near the grill with a beer in one hand and a cigar in the other, surrounded by his brothers. I saw him gesturing wildly, pointing toward the house, my house, as if he were already measuring how much it would fetch on the market. "Hit it! Don't miss!" The kids started shouting around the piñata. I sat on a wrought iron bench, feeling like a stranger in my own empire. That was when I felt a small hand tugging at my jacket. It was Zora. My little Zora, the only reason I tolerated this circus. But something was wrong. She didn't have that gap-toothed smile I loved so much. She was pale, and her large dark eyes kept darting around as if she were afraid someone would see us. "What's wrong, baby girl?" I asked, lowering my voice. "Didn't you like the piñata? You want Grandpa to get you another one?" "No, Grandpa." Her voice was trembling. "I have to tell you something. But promise me, by Grandma Hattie's memory, that you won't be mad at my mommy and Daddy." The tone of her voice made my blood run cold. I leaned down until I was at her level, ignoring the sharp ache in my knees. "I promise, sweetheart." "What is it?" Zora leaned into my ear, smelling like cotton candy and fear. "Last night, I woke up because I was thirsty. I heard Mommy yelling in the kitchen. She was telling Daddy that they can't take it anymore, that they have to get rid of the old man. I felt a buzzing in my ears. Get rid of the old man. Get rid of the old man, I repeated, feeling the air leave my lungs. Yes, Mommy said that tomorrow morning they're going to sign some papers. She said they're taking you to the Pines. The Pines? The name hit me like a sledgehammer. Everyone in Atlanta knew the rumors about the Pines. A state-run facility on the outskirts of the city, a place where the elderly were abandoned to rot in stained sheets and eat rancid food. A place where people went to be forgotten, not to be cared for. And Daddy, Zora sobbed quietly. Daddy said it was for the best. He said if they sold this house fast, they could pay back the sledge and we'd move to a penthouse in Miami. Grandpa, I don't want to go to Miami. I don't want them to take you to the Pines. The world stopped. The music, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, it all faded away. All that remained was the broken voice of my granddaughter and the volcanic fury beginning to wake up in my chest. My son, my own blood. The boy I taught to ride a bike in this very garden. The man I sent to the best private universities so he wouldn't have to carry bags of cement like I did. That man was planning to throw me out like trash to pay off his gambling debts. I stroked Zora's hair, forcing my hands not to shake. Listen to me carefully, baby girl, I said in a voice I didn't recognize. It was the voice of the boss, the voice I used when negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts with corrupt unions. No one is taking me anywhere, and no one is selling this house. Do you understand? You promise? I swear it on your grandmother Hattie's memory. But I need you to be brave. This is going to be our little secret, okay? A spy secret? Zora nodded, wiping her tears. At that moment, I saw Tiffany approaching with that fake elegance she had rehearsed from reality TV shows. Oh, here you both are, Tiffany squealed. Otis, what are you doing out here all by yourself? Come on, we're about to cut the cake. And you, young lady, fix that dress. You look like you belong in the projects. Tiffany grabbed at my arm. Her touch made my skin crawl. But I smiled. It was the fakest smile of my life. Let's go, dear, I said. I wouldn't miss this cake for the world. The main table was decorated like a royal wedding. Marcus stood up when he saw me, wearing that toothpaste commercial smile he always used when he wanted money. Pop! The man, the myth, the legend, he shouted, hugging me tightly. He smelled like expensive cologne and fear. Yes, beneath the alcohol, I could smell his terror. The terror of someone who owes a lot of money to very bad people. Sit here at the head of the table. You're the guest of honor today. Thanks, son, I replied, letting him lead me like a fragile old man. What an impressive party. Must have cost a fortune. Marcus tensed for a second, but regained his composure. Nothing is too much for my Princess Zora, Pop. Besides, you know, business is booming. That crypto investment I told you about? Man, we're making money hand over fist. Lie. I knew it was a lie. Marcus couldn't invest his way out of a paper bag. That's great, son, I said, playing dumb. I'm glad to hear that because, to be honest, I've been feeling a little tired lately. My memory isn't what it used to be any. I think I'm done managing my own accounts. The effect was immediate. Marcus and Tiffany exchanged a quick look, the look of predators seeing a gazelle start to limp. Oh, you poor thing. Tiffany leaned in, showing far too much skin. You've worked so hard. You deserve a rest. Let Marcus handle everything. He's so smart, just like you. Yeah, Pop, Marcus leaned in, lowering his voice. Actually, Tiffany and I were thinking, maybe tomorrow we could go to the lawyer's office, just to sign some papers, a power of attorney, you know? So I can go to the bank for you. And you don't have to deal with those long lines in the heat. It's for your health. A power of attorney? I asked, squinting as if I didn't understand. Oh, for the paperwork. Well, maybe that is a good idea. This head of mine isn't what it used to be. Yesterday, I called the housekeeper Hattie. Tiffany let out a nervous little giggle. See? It's dangerous. Imagine if you forgot to turn off the stove. We'll take care of it tomorrow. We'll take care of you. Just then, Marcus's phone vibrated on the table. He looked at the screen and went pale. He stood up abruptly. I have to take this. It's an important client. I watched him walk away toward the pool area. He didn't walk like a successful businessman. He walked like a condemned man. I took advantage of Tiffany yelling at the caterers to sharpen my ears. Years of working on noisy construction sites had taught me how to read lips and listen selectively. Marcus was arguing in a low voice, his gestures frantic. I told you I'd have it, man. Tomorrow for sure. No, don't touch the kid. I swear the old man is signing tomorrow. The house is worth at least $15 million? Yes, the whole thing. He came back to the table, sweating cold, wiping his forehead with a cloth napkin. Everything okay, son? I asked, cutting a piece of cake. Yeah, Pop. Everything's great. Just some technical details on a contract. Good, I said, chewing the cake that suddenly tasted like ash. By the way, Tiffany, this cake is delicious. Where's it from? From Fleur de Lis, Otis, the best of the best. I see. Enjoy it, I said, wiping my mouth. Enjoy it very much because I have a feeling things are going to change soon. What do you mean? Marcus asked, his voice shaking. I mean the weather is going to change. My knees are aching. I think it's going to rain. I stood up slowly, leaning on the table. Well, family, Grandpa is heading in. I've got a headache and all this music is making me dizzy. Going in so early? Tiffany feigned disappointment. It's barely 6 o'clock. Yes, dear, I'm old. You all keep celebrating. Celebrate your future. I walked away from the party hunched over, dragging my feet. But the moment I crossed the threshold and was out of their sight, my back straightened. The pain in my knees vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating adrenaline. The party was over for sweet Grandpa Otis. It was time for Otis Cyprian, the man who survived the crashes of '87 and 2008, to wake up. I walked to my truck. It wasn't a Mercedes or a BMW, like the ones cluttering my driveway. It was my faithful '98 Ford F-150, rust red. Marcus was always begging me to sell it. Pop, you look bad showing up to meetings in that junk, he'd say. But that junk had never left me stranded. That truck had hauled the bricks for my first job. It had scars, just like I did. I got in and slammed the door. The smell of old leather and tobacco calmed me down. When I started the engine, its deep roar briefly drowned out the jazz music in the distance. I drove out of the gated community, waving to the security guard who had known me for 20 years. As I drove through the streets of Atlanta, the Saturday evening traffic gave me time to think. I looked at my hands on the wheel, large, calloused, spotted with age. These hands had mixed concrete, hauled steel beams, signed paychecks for hundreds of families, and they had also cradled Marcus when he was born. Hattie, I whispered to the empty passenger seat, you left me alone with this mess, old girl. I remembered the day. Hattie died 3 years ago. Her last words weren't about romantic love. They were a warning. Otis, watch out for Marcus. We love him, but he's weak, and Tiffany, that woman is hungry, but not for food. Don't let them eat you alive, old man. At the time, I thought it was just the morphine talking. How stupid I was. Marcus was always a spoiled child. In my desire to make sure he didn't suffer the poverty I did, I gave him everything. I gave him cars, trips, a vice presidency at the company, where he did nothing but play golf. I raised a parasite who thought money grew on trees and didn't come from the sweat of your brow. And now, that parasite wanted to sell me out. I stopped at a red light. Next to me was a city bus filled with people coming home from work. I saw tired faces, honest people earning a living, and I felt a deep shame. My son, with all the opportunities in the world, was less of a man than any of them. "It's over," I said out loud, hitting the steering wheel. "The scholarship is over, Marcus. The easy life is done." The light turned green. I hit the gas. I wasn't going home to sleep. I was going to war. And in war, the first one to hesitate is the first one to die. I got back to the mansion as the sun was setting. The house was quiet. Most of the guests were either in the back garden or gone. I entered through the side door, avoiding the cleaning crew Tiffany had hired, most of whom were likely her spies. My house, a 20,000 square foot estate in the hills with Italian marble and crystal chandeliers, everything Hattie ever wanted. Now it felt like a mausoleum. I went straight to my office on the second floor. It was the only place Tiffany didn't dare enter. She said it smelled like old man and cigars. I took out my keys and opened the heavy oak door. The air inside was still. I locked the door behind me with a double bolt. I walked to the bookshelf. I moved a fake copy of the Encyclopedia Britannica to reveal a keypad. Marcus and Tiffany thought I was a tech-phobic old man who barely knew how to use a smartphone. What they didn't know was that 6 months ago, after noticing $50,000 missing from a miscellaneous account, I had hired a cybersecurity specialist. "I want to see and hear everything, son," I told him, "even when the mice sneeze." I typed in the code. A section of the wall slid away, revealing a high-definition monitor connected to a private server. I sat in my leather chair, put on my glasses, and started reviewing the recordings. There they were. Friday night, main living room. On the screen, I saw Marcus pacing back and forth with a glass of whiskey. He looked disheveled, his eyes red. Tiffany was sitting on the sofa filing her nails with an indifference that chilled my blood. I turned up the volume. "Don't you understand, Tiffany?" Marcus was shouting. "The Sledge isn't a bank. They're mobsters, you idiot. They told me if I don't pay the $5 million by Tuesday, they're going to send Zora back to me in pieces." My heart stopped for a beat. They threatened my granddaughter. I felt a surge of acid bile rise in my throat. "Oh, stop the drama, Marcus," Tiffany replied without looking up from her nails. "I told you the plan. Tomorrow at the party, we get him a little drunk. Monday morning, we bring in Dr. Vance. He'll certify that the old man has advanced dementia. With that and the lawyer your friend found, we get the irrevocable power of attorney." "And if he resists?" Marcus asked, trembling. "He won't resist. He's a useless old man who just wants to be loved. We tell him it's to help him. Once it's signed, we ship him off to that state home, the Pines. People die fast there, Marcus. In 2 months, he'll catch pneumonia, and that's that. We sell the house, you pay your debt, and we have about 25 million left to disappear to Miami." Marcus stopped and looked at a photo of me on the mantel. For a moment, I thought I'd see remorse. "And what if he finds out?" "Oh, for God's sake!" Tiffany stood up and slapped him. "Be a man. Your father has lived long enough. It's our turn now. Or would you rather let the Sledge kill you?" Marcus touched his cheek. "You're right. The old man is no use anymore." I turned off the screen. I sat in the dark, listening to the hum of the server. The old man is no use anymore. A single tear rolled down my cheek. It wasn't out of sadness. It was pure rage. That tear was the last thing I would ever cry for my son. In that moment, Marcus died to me. The man I saw on the screen wasn't my son. He was an enemy. And you destroy your enemies. I turned on the desk lamp. The yellow light illuminated the portrait of Hattie. "Forgive me, old girl," I whispered, "but I'm going to have to break my promise to look after the boy. Today I have to be the monster you never wanted me to be." I reached down to the floor safe. The combination: Zora's birthday. The steel door opened with a heavy click. Inside, there wasn't just money. There was something more dangerous. Information. I pulled out an old, worn black ledger and a blue folder containing bank statements I had intercepted before they reached Marcus's mailbox. I opened the ledger. For 40 years, I had recorded every cent that entered and left my business. It was a habit from when I was poor, an obsession. I flipped through the pages to the recent entries. January, Tiffany's credit card payment, $10,000, winter clothes. February, transfer to Marcus, $50,000, tech startup investment, fake, tracked to an online casino account. March, medical clinic, $20,000, Tiffany's cosmetic surgery. April, Zora's tuition, $4,000, paid. I added up the figures from the last 3 years. The calculator spat out a number that made me nauseous. $41 million. They had drunk, gambled, and rubbed into their skin the equivalent of the life's work of 100 honest men. And it wasn't enough. It was never enough for the black holes they had for souls. And now, the debt to the sledge. 5 million more. I looked at the blue folder. I had the promissory notes Marcus had forged, the illegal transfers he had made using my digital signature when I was sick last year. I had enough evidence to put them in prison for 20 years. Fraud, embezzlement, that forgery. I could call the police right now. I could watch them be hauled away in handcuffs while the guests recorded it on their phones. But no, that would be too easy, too fast. Prison is a punishment for the poor. For people like Marcus and Tiffany, who live for appearances, the real punishment isn't bars. The real punishment is poverty, humiliation, and having to actually work. I picked up my phone. It was 8 o'clock in the evening. I dialed a number I hadn't used in years. "Hello?" A gravelly, deep voice answered on the third ring. "Silas," I said firmly. "It's Otis. Drop whatever you're doing. I need you at my house right now. And bring a notary. An honest one, not the clowns my son uses." "Otis? It's Sunday night. Did something happen?" "Yes, Silas. Someone tried to kill the lion, and now the lion is hungry. Bring the papers for a trust and an eviction notice. We're rewriting a will." I hung up. I poured myself a glass of reserve bourbon. Neat. I drank it in one go, feeling the fire slide down my throat, burning away the sadness, and leaving only resolve. Tomorrow, Monday, was going to be an interesting day. Marcus wanted a signature. Oh yes, I was going to give him a signature. The one that would end his life as a parasite forever. I walked to the window and looked out at the garden, where the party lights were already being turned off. "Enjoy your last night of being rich, Junior," I whispered, "because tomorrow you're going to find out what it's like to earn your bread by the sweat of your brow." Sunday dawned with that heavy silence that follows a collective hangover. The house was sleeping, or rather, recovering from the binge. But I had been awake for 3 hours, sitting in my favorite armchair, watching the sun illuminate the dust motes floating in the air. A timid knock on the door pulled me from my thoughts. "Grandpa?" It was Zora's little voice. "Come in, sweetheart. It's open?" The door opened, and my granddaughter entered Cora, carefully carrying a tray. The unmistakable smell of bacon and fresh coffee filled the room. "I told the cook I'd bring you breakfast," she whispered, closing the door carefully. "Mommy and Daddy are still asleep." Mommy was yelling because she couldn't find her headache pills. I smiled, a genuine smile, for the first time in 24 hours. "Thank you, Angel. Come, sit here with me." Zora set down the tray and climbed into the chair. She had dark circles under her eyes. Poor Angel, carrying the sins of her parents. She pulled a tablet with a pink case out of her pajamas. "Grandpa, look. Last night, when they were talking in the living room, I hid behind the big sofa. I left my tablet recording video. I felt a sting of pride and pain. An 8-year-old girl doing spy work to protect her grandfather. I took the device. The video was dark, and the angle was crooked, but the audio was crystal clear. I saw Marcus pouring another whiskey, shaking. There's no other option, Tiffany. The old man signs or they kill me. The sledge doesn't forgive." And Tiffany's voice, cold as ice. "Then let him sign. And if he won't do it willingly, we'll have the doctor inject him with something to make him cooperative. No one's going to miss an old man who already smells like the grave." I gripped the tablet so hard, I feared I had cracked the screen. Smells like the grave. So, that's what I was to her. A corporal course that was taking too long to stop breathing. I looked at Zora. Her large eyes were watching me, waiting for a reaction. "Listen to me, Zora," I said, taking her small hands. "You are the bravest girl I know, braver than your father. What you did, this is pure ammunition." "Are you going to call the police?" she asked. "No, the police that are for common criminals. This is a family matter. And in this family, we wash our dirty laundry with bleach and acid if necessary." I stood up and went to my desk, taking a gold key from my pocket. "Zora, from today on, you and I are partners. You are my eyes and ears when I can't be around. But I need you to be an actress. Do you like acting?" She nodded, intrigued. "Today, I'm going to pretend I'm very sick, that I'm forgetting things. I need you to play along. If you see me spill my coffee, don't clean it up. If you see me talking to myself, don't be scared. Can you do that?" "Yes, Grandpa, like in the movies." "Exactly, better than the movies. Because at the end of this chapter, the bad guys aren't just going to cry. They're going to wish they were never born." At 10 o'clock in the morning, the man I needed arrived through the service entrance. Silas Thorne hadn't changed a bit in 40 years. The same thick, gray mustache, the same double-breasted suit that hadn't been in style since the 90s, and the same worn leather briefcase that looked like it was filled with bricks. Silas wasn't a fancy corporate lawyer. He was a trench lawyer, the kind who knows where the bodies are buried. "Otis," he greeted me with a handshake that could crush stone. "You told me it was urgent. I missed my morning service, and my wife is going to kill me. Sit down, old friend. What I'm about to tell you will make you forget about church. You might even need to confess yourself after, or what we're going to plan." I poured him a coffee and played the recording from the tablet. Silas listened in silence. His poker face slowly transformed. First he frowned, then he grit his teeth, and finally he slammed my desk so hard the cups jumped. "Those sons of bitches," he roared, forgetting his manners. "Forgive my language, Otis, but those are some low-down sons of bitches. Incompetence, drugging you. This is attempted kidnapping and assault." "I know, and I want to destroy them, Silas. But I don't want them in jail just yet. I want something worse." "Worse?" "I want them to feel hunger. I want to take everything from them. Absolutely everything. But I need to protect the girl. If I report them now, Child Protective Services will take Zora. I can't allow that. Silas stroked his mustache, thinking. His legal brain started churning. All right, here's the strategy. They want an irrevocable power of attorney tomorrow. If you sign that, you're legally dead. They take the accounts, the house, everything. I'm not signing that. Of course not. We're going to set a trap. We're going to draft a trust. All your assets, the house, the accounts, the investments, will be moved into a trust where Zora is the sole beneficiary. And you will be the lifetime administrator. And I will be the executor if you pass. The key clause will be this. Any attempt to challenge the trust by Marcus or Tiffany will result in the immediate donation of all assets to the Red Cross. The iron trap, I murmured. I liked it. Exactly. But there's a problem, Otis. Silas looked at me seriously. This Sledge fellow. If Marcus doesn't pay tomorrow, those animals don't play. They could hurt Marcus or worse, come here looking for payment. We can't risk Zora being in the house. I stood up and looked out the window. Silas was right. The law worked out for Tiffany and Marcus. But for the loan sharks, the law didn't exist. You're right. I can't fight two wars at once. I have to neutralize the Sledge today. Are you crazy? Silas was alarmed. Are you going to call the police? No, I'm going to go see him. Otis, they'll kill you. That guy controls the South Side. Silas, I've dealt with union bosses who carried pistols in their belts in the 80s. I've negotiated with corrupt governors. The Sledge is just a businessman. A dirty business, but business nonetheless. And I have liquidity. I opened my safe and pulled out 2 thick stacks of $100 bills. Prepare the trust papers. Bring them tomorrow at 9, along with Silas Vance from the bank. Enter through the library and hide. I'll handle the Sledge. The neighborhood wasn't a place for a rust-red Ford F-150, even if it was old. It was a maze of narrow streets, graffiti of grim reapers, and stairs that felt heavy on the back of your neck. I parked in front of a warehouse that was masquerading as an auto shop. I knew I was in the right place because there were 2 tattooed guys at the entrance keeping watch. They didn't look like mechanics. I got out of the truck. I was wearing my hat and carrying my cane, even though I didn't need it. The cane was a weapon. Solid oak with a silver handle. Hey, Pops, one of the guys shouted at me. You're lost. The nursing home is the other way. The other one laughed. I walked up until I was right in front of them. I didn't look down. I'm here to see the Sledge. Now tell him Otis Cyprian is here to talk about Marcus's debt. The guys looked at each other. Marcus's name sounded familiar. One of them spat on the ground and pulled out a radio. Boss, there's an old man here. Says he's the junior's dad. Yeah, he's alone. Okay. The metal shutter rose with a rusty screech. Inside, it smelled like motor oil and weed. At the back, sitting on a red leather chair that looked like a cheap throne, was the Sledge. He was a heavy man, bald, with gold chains hanging over a tank top. He was eating tacos. So you're the famous dad, the Sledge said, wiping sauce from his mouth. Your son is a whiner, you know, cries every time we collect. My son is an idiot, I replied dryly. And you're a reckless lender for lending money to an idiot. The atmosphere tensed. The 2 goons took a step toward me. The Sledge let out a loud laugh. The old man's got balls. I like him. Did you come to pay, or should I send your son back to you in bags? It's $5 million, plus interest. 6 total. I came to do business. I took out my checkbook. I wasn't going to pay with cash. That was for rookies. I'm going to give you a certified cashier's check for $6 million. You can cash it first thing tomorrow. It's clean money from my construction company. Nothing the police will track. The sledge put down his taco. Clean money was worth double to people like him. And what do you want in return? For me to spare the junior's life? No, I said, and my voice echoed in the metal warehouse. I want trying to buy the debt. The sledge frowned. What? You hand over the promissory note signed by Marcus. You assign the collection rights to me. I pay you. And now, Marcus owes me. You forget about him. You don't touch him, you don't go near my house, you don't look at my granddaughter. If I see one of your men near my family, I have friends in the district attorney's office who would be thrilled to know where you keep your inventory. The sledge studied me. He saw my clothes, my posture, the lack of fear in my eyes. He recognized an equal, a predator. Deal, Mr. Cyprian. He signaled to one of his men. Bring me the junior's papers. 10 minutes later, I walked out of the warehouse with the original promissory notes in my inside pocket. The afternoon sun hit my face. I felt 10 years younger. Marcus didn't owe the mob anymore. Now he owed the boss. And the boss was very disappointed in him. I got back home just as Marcus and Tiffany were coming down to the living room, hungover and in a bad mood. It was time for my grand performance. I messed up my hair, loosened my tie, and dragged my feet as I walked in. Hattie! I shouted, looking toward the empty kitchen. Hattie, woman, where did you put my blueprints? Marcus stopped dead on the stairs. Pop? Mom? Mom died 3 years ago. I turned toward him, squinting as if I didn't quite recognize him. Marcus? Oh no. You're... Who are you? Oh yeah. The boy who brings the newspaper. Tell Hattie to serve dinner. Tiffany ran down with a malicious smile painted on her lips. Oh, Marcus, look at him. He's worse than we thought. She came over to me and spoke as if I were a foolish child. Otis, Hattie isn't here. Come, sit down. Did you take your medicine? I don't want medicine, I grumbled, waving my arms at the air. I want to go home. This isn't my house. There are too many strangers. I let myself sink into the sofa, staring into space, with my mouth slightly open. Marcus's phone rang. He answered quickly, walking away a bit. Hello? Yes, I know. I'll have the money tomorrow. No, don't worry. The old man is ready. He's completely gone. Yeah. Tomorrow I sign and deposit. He hung up and gave Tiffany an okay sign with his hand. They were celebrating. They thought they had the money in the bag. Pop, Marcus sat next to me, putting a hand on my shoulder. Some friends are coming to visit you tomorrow. A very good doctor, and a man who's going to help us with some papers so you don't have to worry about anything. Is that okay? Papers? I asked with a trembling voice. Papers for Hattie to come back? Yes, Pop. Sova, everything will be fine. You just have to sign and rest. Well, if you say so. You're a good boy. Not like that Marcus fellow who spends all my money. Marcus stiffened, but Tiffany let out a laugh. Listen to what he says. Even in his madness, he knows you're a spender. Get him to his room. Let him sleep until tomorrow. We don't want him dying before he signs. I let myself be led up the stairs, leaning my full weight on my son. I felt his tense muscles, his impatience. His touch disgusted me, but I endured. Sleep well, son, I thought, because tomorrow you're going to wake up in hell. It was 9 o'clock at night. I was in my office reviewing the final draft of the trust that Silas had sent me via encrypted email. I was standing, pacing back and forth, talking on my cell phone in my normal voice. Yes, Silas. Clause 3 needs to be stricter. I want it to specify that they can't even live on the property as guests. Out. Totally out. Suddenly, I heard the click, clack, click of heels in the hallway. I froze. Tiffany. The door to my office was closed, but light was leaking out from under it. If she came in now and saw me talking business with such clarity, everything would be ruined. Would they run to find a corrupt judge that same night? Or would they do something to me physically? Otis? Tiffany's voice sounded right behind the door. Who are you talking to? I hung up the phone instantly and threw it onto the sofa. But I didn't have time to sit down or turn off the computer. The knobs started to turn. My heart was beating like a drum. I was trapped. Crash. The sound of breaking glass exploded in the hallway a few yards from the door. Ow! Zora screamed. I cut myself. The knob stopped turning. Tiffany let out a huff of annoyance. For God's sake, Zora, what did you break now? I heard Tiffany's footsteps moving away from my door, toward where the girl was. I took those golden seconds, turned off the monitor, took off my jacket, and threw it on the floor. I unbuttoned my shirt and curled up on the rug in a fetal position, clutching a pillow. I started moaning softly. The door burst open. Tiffany entered, followed by Zora, who had a small fake, or real, God forbid, cut on her finger. What is going on here? Tiffany shouted. Then she saw me lying on the floor, shaking. Mommy, I moaned. Mommy, I'm cold. The bad men came. Tiffany stood there, looking at me with absolute contempt. Oh, please, he fell out of his chair. Get him up. Marcus, she shouted towards the hallway. Your father is making a fool of himself again. I thought he was talking on the phone, but he must have been babbling to his ghosts. Marcus came running in. Between the two of them, they picked me up and threw me onto the sofa. He's burning up with fever, Marcus said, touching my forehead. I had rubbed my face against the rug to heat it up. Better. That way he'll be more docile tomorrow. Let's go. Leave him there. Zora, stay and watch him. They left the office, closing the door. I stayed motionless for a few seconds until I heard their footsteps go down the stairs. I opened one eye. Zora was standing in front of me with a finger wrapped in toilet paper stained with ketchup. Ingenious girl. I sat up and winked at her. That was an Oscar-winning performance, sweetheart, I whispered. Zora smiled, though her hands were shaking a little. They almost caught us, Grandpa. Almost. But almost is where champions win. Go to sleep, soldier. Tomorrow is D-Day. Tomorrow the trap shuts, and there will be no mercy. Monday dawned gray, with that overcast sky typical of Atlanta when rain is threatening. I dressed carefully for my role. I put on an old wool cardigan that had a coffee stain on the sleeve and left my shoes unpolished. I messed up my hair a bit in front of the mirror. The image looking back at me was that of a defeated old man. Perfect, I whispered. You look like easy prey. I went down to the living room at 9 o'clock sharp. Marcus and Tiffany were already there, pacing back and forth like caged cats. Marcus was biting his nails. Tiffany was compulsively touching up her makeup. When the doorbell rang, they both jumped. They're here, Marcus said, his voice cracking. Pop, sit here, please. Don't say anything stupid. Just nod and sign. The housekeeper opened the door, and the vultures entered. First, Dr. Vance, a short, bald man with a medical bag that looked like a prop. I'd heard of him. He was famous for prescribing diet pills to rich ladies and signing questionable death certificates for the right price. Behind him was the notary public, A man named Mr. Sterling, a heavy, sweating man, with a suit that was too small and a tie stained with sauce. He had that arrogant look of bureaucrats who think they're gods because they have an official seal. "Good morning, family," Sterling said in a thick voice. "Sorry for the hour, but we understand this is a matter of medical and legal urgency. Come in, come in." Tiffany received him with her best fake smile. "My father-in-law is waiting for you. Today he woke up, well, you'll see, very lost." I sat there staring at a fixed point on the wall with my mouth slightly open. "Who are these people, Hattie?" I babbled when they approached. "Did they come to fix the leak in the roof?" Marcus closed his eyes, ashamed or relieved, I don't know. "No, Pop. This is the doctor and the lawyer. They came to help you." "Help me? I don't need help. I built the downtown bridge. I hauled the bags." I started rambling, mixing memories from 30 years ago. Dr. Vance looked at me with disdain and pulled a light from his pocket. "Let's see, Mr. Cyprian. Look at me here." He shone the light in my eyes. Dilated pupils. Slow response. "Aha. Tell me, what day is it today?" It's Sunday service." Hattie put on her blue dress. Vance put away the light and looked at the notary. "It's evident, Mr. Sterling. Advanced dementia with episodes of delirium. This man doesn't even know who he is. He's a danger to himself and his assets." "How terrible!" Sterling exclaimed, feigning surprise. "What a tragedy for a man of his stature. Well, let's proceed. Time is money, and my fees are running." I saw them take out the documents. There were many. Papers that smelled of fresh ink and betrayal. I felt like an animal in a slaughterhouse, watching them sharpen the knives. But what they didn't know was that the animal wasn't tied down. What Marcus and Tiffany ignored was that the house had ghosts that morning. An hour before the vultures arrived, I had opened the back garden door. That's how my true allies entered. Silas Thorne, my lifelong friend, and the toughest lawyer in Georgia, and Mr. Vance, the honest one, the regional director of National Bank, a man of impeccable reputation who had managed my accounts since the 80s. 2 other men also came, private security guards, ex-military, armed and discreet. "Otis, this is crazy," the banker had told me as he walked in, seeing my senile old man costume. "Is all this theater necessary?" "It's necessary, Silas. I want them to see the face of the boss without a mask. I want them to hear how they sell out their own father." I hid them in the library, a room adjacent to the main living room. The library door was thick wood, but I left it open by a millimeter. Additionally, I had connected the security camera feed to a tablet that Silas Thorne was holding. They could see and hear everything happening in the living room in 4K definition. "Don't come out until I give the signal," I warned them. "The signal will be when I throw the papers on the floor." "Take care of yourself, brother," Thorne said, squeezing my shoulder. "If they try anything physical, we're coming in hard." Now, as the corrupt notary spread the documents on the coffee table, I knew my friends were just 15 feet away, holding their breath, witnessing the infamy. I felt a strange calm. I wasn't alone. I had my granddaughter upstairs, safe in her locked room, my friends by my side, and my wife's memory in my heart. "All right, Mr. Cyprian," the notary Sterling said, putting a gold fountain pen in front of me. "I need you to sign here, here, and here. It's so your son can, collect your pension and pay for your medicines." "My pension?" I asked, my hand trembling intentionally. "But I have money. I have a lot of money in the safe." Not anymore, Pop, Marcus interrupted, sweating buckets. The money is in the bank and you can't go. Sign so I can go for you. Please, Pop, do it for me. The phrase he used his whole life to manipulate me. Buy me the car. Do it for me. Pay my debt. Do it for me. Today would be the last time I'd hear that phrase. The farce continued. Dr. Vance was filling out a medical form at full speed. I could read the header upside down. Certificate of permanent mental incapacity. Doctor, Tiffany said, crossing her legs and shaking her foot impatiently. Does that certificate work to admit him today? We already contacted the ambulance for that place. Yes, ma'am. With my signature and the notary's seal, Otis Cyprian legally becomes a child. You decide where he lives, what he eats, and of course, what is done with his assets for his maintenance. Excellent. Tiffany smiled. A shark's smile. Marcus, give him the pen. Let him sign already. Marcus took my hand. His palm was cold and damp. Pop, take the pen. Sign here where the X is. I took the pen. My hand was shaking so much I made a scribble in the air. No, I can't. My hand hurts, I moaned. Oh, for God's sake. Tiffany stood up from the sofa, exasperated. Let me help you. She sat next to me and grabbed my hand tightly, almost digging her nails in. I felt her expensive perfume, paid for with my money, invade my nostrils. Come on, Pop. Don't be difficult. Sign your name. OTIS. I looked at the papers. Irrevocable, general power of attorney for lawsuits and collections, acts of administration, and acts of ownership. And below it, another document. Promise of sale of real property. They already had the house sold. I looked up and looked Marcus in the eye. I was going to give him one last chance. One single, final test of paternal love. Marcus, son, I said in a soft voice, but stopping my trembling a bit. If I sign this, do you promise me you won't sell your mother's house? Her garden is here. Her memories are here. Swear to me you'll let me live here until I die. The silence in the room was absolute. The notary stopped writing. The doctor looked at the ceiling. Marcus looked at Mio. I saw the doubt in his eyes. I saw the struggle between his conscience and his fear of the sledge. But the fear won. Yes, Pop, he said without blinking. I swear it. This house is yours. No one is going to sell it. You're staying right here. Lie. A lie told to the eyes of a dying father. That was the exact moment my heart hardened, like the concrete I sold my whole life. There was no turning back. You swear it to me? I insisted. I swear it on my life, Pop. Sign already. Tiffany squeezed my hand violently. Stop the drama and sign, you useless old man. We're in a hurry. In that instant, time stopped. I stopped shaking. My hand, which seconds before seemed like a dry leaf in the wind, turned into a claw of steel. I squeezed Tiffany's wrist so hard she let out a cry of pain and surprise. Ow! You're hurting me. Let go, she shrieked, trying to pull away. But I didn't let go. I turned slowly toward her. My posture straightened. My mouth was no longer open. My eyes, previously glassy and lost, now burned with the fire of accumulated fury. Get your filthy hands off of me, woman, I said. My voice wasn't a babble. It was a deep, low thunder. Tiffany froze with her mouth open. Marcus took a step back as if he'd seen a ghost. Pop, he whispered. I released Tiffany with a push that sent her backward against the sofa. I stood up. I didn't need the cane, but I gripped it as if it were a royal scepter. Did you think I was crazy? I asked, scanning the room. Did you think because I'm old, I'm stupid? Sterling, the notary, tried to intervene nervously. Mr. Cyprian, if you don't feel well... Shut your mouth, you two-bit lawyer, I shouted at him. You're not a notary. You're an accomplice to theft. And you, doctor, I pointed at Vance. You better hope your license is up to date because you're losing it today. Marcus was pale, shaking more than I had been a moment ago. Pop, what's going on? You were sick. I was acting, Marcus. And you just failed the audition. You lied. You swore to my face you wouldn't sell the house while you had the sales contract right under these papers. I grabbed the pile of documents from the table, held them in the air, and let them fall like rain. Now, I shouted. That was the signal. The library door burst open. Silas Thorne and Silas Vance came out, followed by the two armed security guards who positioned themselves at the main entrance, blocking the exit. Good afternoon, Thorne said with a fierce smile. Quite a party you have here. I pity the cake is over. Tiffany stood up, fixing her dress, trying to regain her spoiled girl arrogance. Wait, who are you people? Get out of my house. Marcus, do something. This isn't your house, you idiot, I said, walking toward her until she backed away. And Marcus isn't going to do anything because Marcus no longer has a voice or a vote in this family. The notary Sterling, seeing Thorne, who was the president of the State Bar Association, turned the color of wax. Mr. Thorne, what a surprise. I just came to witness a fraud, Sterling. Thorne cut him off sharply. We have everything recorded, high-definition video and audio. We heard how you were coercing Mr. Cyprian, how the doctor was faking the diagnosis, and how you were preparing the theft. Dr. Vance tried to grab his bag and run toward the back door. Hold it right there. One of the guards blocked his path, putting a hand on his chest. The doctor bounced back like a ball. No one leaves here until I say so, I sentenced. I walked toward the giant 85-inch television Marcus had bought with my money last month. Sit down, I ordered. No one moved. Sit the hell down. My shout made the windows rattle. Marcus and Tiffany collapsed onto the sofa like rag dolls. The accomplices stayed standing, trembling. Marcus, you wanted to know how gone your father was? Let's watch a movie. I took the remote and connected the server feed. The screen lit up. The day and time appeared. Friday, 11:45 p.m. There they were, in that same living room. The video started playing at a deafening volume. Marcus on screen. The old man already smells like the grave. If we put him in the pines, in 2 weeks he'll die of sadness or an infection. Tiffany on screen. I hope he dies sooner. I'm sick of him and his back-in-my-day stories. Hey, with the $15 million from the house, can I buy the Range Rover? The one with the panoramic sunroof. Marcus on screen. Yes, baby, whatever you want. First I pay the sledge, and the rest is ours. After all, the money was going to be ours sooner or later anyway. I paused the video right on Tiffany's face, laughing. The silence in the room was deathly. Tiffany was staring blankly, her mouth dry. Marcus was crying silently with his head in his hands. Smells like the grave, I repeated Tiffany's words. I paid for your new body, Tiffany. I paid for your gym. I paid for the very clothes you're wearing. And this is how you pay me back. Planning my death to buy a car. You are trash. You are less than trash. I turned to Marcus. And you, my son, my pride, selling out your father for gambling debts. And women. Pop, forgive me. I'm scared. The sledge, yeah. Marcus sobbed like a small child. Shut up, I snapped. Don't cry. Men face their consequences. I turned to Silas Thorne. Counselor, how many years in prison for these people? Attempted theft, fraud, forgery, illegal restraint. Thorne pulled out a notepad and feigned calculations. Well, Otis, adding the aggravating factors of the victim being elderly and the family bond, I'd say about 15 years for Marcus and Tiffany. And for these two gentlemen, he pointed at the doctor and the notary, besides jail, lifelong professional disbarment. Sterling, the notary, fell to his knees. Yes, to his knees. Mr. Cyprian, please, I didn't know. They misled me. I have kids, Mr. Cyprian. Stand up, have some dignity, I said with disgust. You knew exactly what you were doing. You charged $5,000 in advance. I saw it in Marcus's transfer records. I looked at everyone in the room. I had absolute power. I could destroy them with one call to the DA. I could see them rot in a state penitentiary. But then I thought of Zora. If her parents went to jail, she'd be the daughter of criminals. Her life would be scarred. And I didn't want that for my granddaughter. Besides, I had a better punishment in mind. Listen carefully, I said, lowering my voice to a dangerous whisper. I'm not calling the police just yet. Marcus raised his head with a glimmer of hope. Pop. Don't call me Pop. To you, I'm Mr. Cyprian, your creditor. I pulled the wrinkled paper from my jacket pocket, the one with the star stain I'd gotten from the sledge yesterday. Marcus, do you recognize this? Marcus squinted. When he saw the sledge's signature and the assigned stamp, his breath caught. How? How do you have that? I bought your debt, you useless brat. I went to see the sledge. I paid him your $5 million. Now you don't owe the mob. You owe me. And I'm a much worse debt collector than they are. Because I don't want your money. I want your soul. I walked toward the window and looked out at the garden. You have two options. Option A, I hand over this video and the promissory notes to the police right now. You go to jail for 15 years, and Zora goes to a boarding school in Switzerland. Tiffany started crying hysterically. Option B, I continued. You sign the transfer of temporary legal custody of Zora to me right now. You renounce any rights to this house and to my inheritance. And you, Marcus, you're going to work. Work? Marcus asked, confused. Yes, on the construction site, as a laborer, hauling bricks. You're going to pay me back the $5 million with a minimum wage. It'll take you about 80 years, so you better start early tomorrow morning. And me? Tiffany asked, trembling. I looked at her with the contempt one has for a cockroach. You get out of here right now. No clothes, no jewelry, no car. You leave the way you came to this house with nothing. You can't do this to me, she screamed. I'm the mother of your granddaughter. You're the woman who wanted to kill me. Be grateful. I'm letting you walk out and not leaving in a black bag. I turned to the guards. Get the lady out. If she resists, throw her on the street. No. Marcus, defend me, Tiffany screamed as one of the guards grabbed her arm. Marcus lowered his head and said nothing. He knew he was defeated. He knew his life as a spoiled junior was over forever. As Tiffany's screams faded down the hallway, I sat in my armchair, exhausted but victorious. Silas, I said, get the bourbon. We have to celebrate that today. Today justice was served. Tiffany's screams stopped when the front door slammed shut. In the living room, the silence was heavier than a concrete slab. Marcus was still sitting on the sofa with his head down, looking at his Italian shoes as if they were the most interesting thing in the world. Sterling and Dr. Vance were still trembling in a corner, watched by one of my guards. You too, I said, without looking at them. Get out, but listen well. First thing tomorrow. I'm sending a copy of this video to the Bar Association and the medical board. Say goodbye to your licenses. They ran out like rats when a light is turned on. I was left alone with Marcus, Silas Thorne, and the banker. Well, son, I used the word with irony. Your wife is gone. Now it's your turn. But first, there's a pending matter. Thorne took out the most important document of the night, the temporary transfer of custody. Zora isn't going with you, I explained, pouring myself another drink. You don't have a house, you don't have a job, and frankly, you don't have the backbone to take care of her. If you take her, she'll end up living in some flea-bag motel while you run from your debts. Marcus looked up. His eyes were red and swollen. She's my daughter, Pop. No! I slammed the table. She was your daughter when you were supposed to protect her, but you preferred to protect your lifestyle. The girl showed me the video. Marcus. She's more afraid of living with you than of being an orphan. I put the document in front of him, and a common pen, not the gold fountain pen. Sign. You cede legal custody to me for 1 year. Renewable until you demonstrate economic and psychological stability. If you don't sign, I swear to God, I'm calling the police right now and handing over the videos where you were planning my kidnapping and death. You decide. Poverty in freedom or poverty in jail. Marcus took the pen. His hand was shaking. Am I going to be able to see her? He asked in a thin voice. When you earn it, when you come here clean, sober, and with money, you earned yourself to buy her an ice cream. Until then, don't even come close. Marcus signed. When he lifted the pen, he stopped being a father and became a scared child again. Thorne took the paper, checked it, and nodded. It's done, Otis. The girl is safe. I sighed, feeling a giant weight leave my chest. The house was saved. My life was saved. But most importantly, Zora's future was armored. Very well, I said, putting the documents in my safe. Now for the material part. I approached Marcus. Give me the keys. To what? To everything. The house, the BMW, Tiffany's SUV. Give me the corporate credit cards. Give me the Rolex I gave you when you turned 30. Marcus instinctively touched his wrist. Pop, the watch was a gift. Gifts are for sons who don't try to kill their fathers. Give it to me. Marcus took off the watch, slowly, then pulled out his keychain and wallet, putting everything on the coffee table. The little pile of luxuries sparkled under the lamplight. Now what do I do? He asked, spreading his arms in desperation. Where do I go? I have no money, no car. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a yellow envelope and a MARTA transit card. Here is the address of an apartment in the South Side. It's on the 4th floor. No elevator. It's owned by the company. We used it for out-of-town workers. It's paid for 1 month. After that, the rent is on you. I tossed him the transit card. And this is for you to get around. The bus stops nearby. Welcome out to the reality of millions of Americans, Marcus. He looked at the card with horror, as if it were an alien object. You're leaving me on the street? No. I'm giving you a roof and an opportunity. Tomorrow at 7 a.m., you report to the Riverfront Project. Ask for the foreman, Silas Big Dog Jackson. I told him to give you a job as a general laborer. Laborer? Marcus turned red. I'm an architect. Well, I never technically got my license, but I can't haul bags. You can, and you will. The pay is minimum wage, plus overtime. With that, you'll pay your rent and your food. And every week, I'll deduct 30% to go toward your $6 million debt to me. I got close to him until our noses almost touched. If you miss a single day, if you're late, or if you complain, I fire you. And if I fire you, you no longer have my protection against the Sledge's friends. Understood? Marcus nodded, defeated. Go. Your bags with your old clothes are at the door. The guards will call you an Uber. And Marcus. I stopped him before he left. Don't come back until you are a man. Marcus left, dragging his suitcase down the stone path. But the real show was happening outside on the street. Tiffany hadn't left. She was on the sidewalk, screaming like a lunatic, hitting the iron gate of the residence. Open up! It's my house! They're robbing me! She shrieked, with mascara running all over her face, looking like a rabid raccoon. What Tiffany didn't know is that in my neighborhood, the walls have ears, and the neighbors have hawk eyes. Right across the street lived Mrs. Montgomery, the general's widow. That woman was the Central Intelligence Agency of gossip in Buckhead. If Mrs. Montgomery saw it, the whole state of Georgia knew it in 10 minutes. I saw it on the security cameras as Mrs. Montgomery came out to water her plants at 10 at night. "Oh, neighbor," Mrs. Montgomery shouted from her gate. "What is all that noise? Did you lose your keys?" Tiffany turned, trying to recompose her dignity, but it was impossible. She was disheveled, shoeless. She'd lost them in the scuffle, and her dress was torn. "That old man kicked me out," Tiffany shouted. "He wants to take my daughter." At that moment, the gate opened, and Marcus came out dejected, carrying his plastic bags. "Marcus?" Tiffany ran toward him. "Tell these idiots to let us in." Marcus looked at her. For the first time in years, I saw an expression of disgust toward her on my son's face. "There is no more house, Tiffany," Marcus said in a dead voice. "It's over. Pop knows everything. He knows about the sledge. He knows about the fraud. He took everything from us." "What?" Tiffany backed away. "But you're the heir. Do something." "It was your fault," Marcus exploded, shouting in the middle of the street. "You and your ambition. Sign it. Sign it. Let the old man die. Because of you, I lost my father and my daughter. You're half a man," she screamed, slapping him. Marcus didn't move, so he just looked at her coldly. "Go to hell, Tiffany." Marcus got into the Uber that had arrived, closed out the door, and left her standing there on the sidewalk. Mrs. Montgomery watched the scene with her mouth open, memorizing every detail to tell at the Garden Club brunch tomorrow. Tiffany was left alone under the streetlight. No money, no husband. And now, the laughing stock of Atlanta society. She sat on the curb and started to cry. She wasn't crying for her daughter or her husband. She was crying because she knew that tomorrow her high society friends wouldn't answer her calls. Her social death had been decreed. Tuesday, 7 a.m., Riverfront Project site. I went to the site, not in my truck, but in the project manager's car, to observe from afar. Marcus arrived on time. He got off the city bus looking nauseous. He was wearing old jeans and work boots that were too big for him, borrowed from the super of his new building. Big Dog Jackson, the foreman, a man who had been with me for 30 years and had arms like tree trunks, was waiting for him. "You the one they call Marcus?" Jackson asked, spitting on the ground. I'm Otis Cyprian's son," Marcus said, trying to use his last name as a shield. "There ain't no sons of anybody here," Jackson cut him off. "There's only laborers. Your dad told me not to have any pity on you, so grab that wheelbarrow and start moving debris from the basement level to the dumpster. Move it." I saw my son, the one who used to play golf on Tuesdays, grab a shovel. His soft hands, accustomed to holding wine glasses, blistered in the first hour. At 10 a.m., Marcus threw up behind a pile of bricks. The sun was hot, and the cement dust got into his lungs. One of the workers offered him some water from his bottle. "Keep at it, kid," the worker told him. "The first day is the one that kills you. If you survive today, you've made it." Marcus wiped his mouth, looked at his bleeding hands, and to my surprise, didn't throw in the towel. He grabbed the shovel again. I cried a little inside the car. It was hard to see him like that. It was brutal, but it was necessary. Fire purifies gold, and hard work purifies the soul. I was breaking the spoiled child to see if there was any man left inside. "Come on, son," I whispered. "Prove me wrong about you." It's Sunday again, but this Sunday is different. I'm sitting in the garden, under the shade of the oak tree Hattie and I planted 40 years ago. The air smells like barbecue and grilled corn. "Grandpa, look!" Zora runs toward me with a paper in her hand. She has grown so much this year. She no longer has that look of fear. Now her eyes sparkle with mischief and happiness. "Let's see my little architect," I say, taking her report card. "Straight A's. Well, and 1 B in PE. But you got that from your grandpa. I was never much for running." Zora laughs and hugs me. "Is Daddy coming today?" she asks. "Yes, baby. He should be here any minute." The bell rings. Marcus enters the garden. He has changed. He's thinner. His skin is tanned by the sun, and his arms are toned from physical labor. He doesn't wear Italian suits anymore. He has on a clean flannel shirt and jeans. But most importantly is his look. It's no longer shifty. He looks me in the eye. "Good afternoon, Mr. Cyprian," he greets me with respect. "Good afternoon, Marcus. Sit down. The ribs are almost ready." Marcus greets Zora with a huge hug. He has brought her a modest gift, a set of watercolors. "I bought it with my punctuality bonus," he tells her with pride. "Thanks, Daddy." Marcus sits next to me. He pours himself a beer, but only one. "How's the site?" I ask. "Tough, boss, but they promoted me. Big Dog let me handle the inventory last week. Says I'm good with numbers when I'm not using them to gamble." He laughs, an honest laugh. "I'm glad to hear that. Keep it up. And in a couple of years, maybe, just maybe, we can talk about you coming back to the office. But from the bottom up." "I'm in no rush, Pop," he says, taking a sip. "I like coming home tired and being able to sleep soundly without owing anything to anybody." "And Tiffany?" "Well, news travels fast. I heard she went up to New York, looking for some other rich sucker, but she's too old to compete with 20-year-old models. Last I heard, she was selling timeshares in a call center. Poetic justice." I look at my family. It's not perfect. It's patched up. It has visible scars and seams, but it's real. Zora is painting on the grass. Marcus is tending to the meat on the grill. And I, Otis Cyprian, the old lion, can finally close my eyes and rest a bit. Hattie was right, and in the end, it's all about tending the garden so the roses can bloom, even if sometimes you have to prune the rotten branches. I lift my glass toward the sky. Okay. Cheers, Hattie. Mission accomplished. I'm really glad you're here and that I could share my story with you. If you liked it, show me by liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Let's see how many of us there are. Write in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is. I'm so curious to know where all you wonderful people are tuning in from. If you wanted to support me a little extra, you can also send a small donation. I share new life stories for you every single day. And now, 2 of my most popular stories will pop up on the screen so you can choose what to watch next.